What's up everyone on the internet? Thank you for making this video party. I'm so excited to upload this one for you guys because we're finally in December, which means that we can finally watch Christmas movies. And to start things off, we're gonna be taking a look at a classic that I think that everyone should watch at least once in their life, and that would be It's a Wonderful Life. Honestly, this movie is so good that it will make you cry. So if you watch this movie, I suggest you pack some tissues because by the end of it, you're gonna be crying. So It's a Wonderful Life is a 1946 film starring James Stewart as George Bailey, who's a humble man just running his father's bank, but on Christmas Eve, he decides that he wants to throw away God's greatest gift. Little does he know that someone up there is actually watching him. And throughout the entire movie, we're watching George Bailey's life from the perspective of his guardian angel, who goes by the name of Clarence. And from the beginning of the movie, we begin to see how little George Bailey affects some of the lives of some of his friends and family. And as he grows up, we also begin to see that he's got a lot of plans for life. Kind of like how we feel at some point in our lives. When we're young, we want to travel the world, do great things, make a difference, and live life to its fullest. But as we see George get out of high school, some of those plans are put on hold because after his dad passed away, he has to look after the family business. Okay, so he didn't travel the world, but at least he still has a chance to go to college. Well, as it turns out, if George goes to college, then the bank gets turned over to practically the most richest and cruelest man in Bedford Falls, Donald Trump. Actually, his name is Mr. Potter, but I guarantee you when you watch the film, you're gonna see a lot of similarities between this man and Donald Trump. But anyway, George decides to skip college in order to keep the bank in his name. And at the same time, he also allows his little brother to go to college, who apparently became an All-American football player. So as time goes by, George can't wait for his brother to come home from college so that he can help him run their dad's bank. But as it turns out, his brother got married, and not only that, he also has a good job. Man, George can't catch a break because now he's running the bank on his own. Well, at least halfway through the film, we do get to see George have some joy in his life as we see him fall in love, get married, and eventually have a family. But as you watch the film, you begin to see how a lot of George's hopes, dreams, and aspirations slowly pass by him. As much as he really wants to do the things that he set out to do when he was young, he can't because he has a lot of responsibilities as a businessman, as a husband, and as a father. However, on Christmas Eve, all the weight that he's been carrying on his shoulders comes crashing down. And at this point, he has hit the lowest point in his life to where he thinks that the best way to escape this reality is to just kill himself. And at this point, the story has finally cut up to where we began at the beginning of the film, to where we see Clarence step in to stop George from killing himself. However, even though George is still alive, he hasn't been truly saved. And that's when Clarence comes up with the perfect idea. Okay, you wish you were never born? Wish granted. At first, George doesn't believe it, but as you watch the film, you begin to see his world turn upside down as everything is drastically different. Why? Because George Bailey never existed. And as Clarence would put it, each man's life touches so many other lives. When he isn't around, he leaves an awful hole. This is the part of the film where we begin to realize that a lot of those significant scenes throughout the movie begin to pay off, because we get to notice how George's life actually affected those moments. We begin to see how Bedford Falls changed so much from a small little town to this big casino city, because without anybody to stand up to Mr. Potter, he just took over. We also watch how some of George's friends become more crazy and more lost, because without George's moral values, they soon became more like animals. And it's at this point in the movie where I begin to tear up, because we soon realize that without him, his wife never got married and their kids don't exist. As if we had enough crying, the movie decides to pull out all the stops to the point where we watch George Bailey hit rock bottom once more, to where he starts begging for somebody up there to just give him his life back. And what do you know? He gets his life back. Suddenly, all the problems of the world mean nothing to him because he finally has his family and friends back. And as he runs back home to his family, he is surprised to see that everyone he has ever met in his life come over to his aid to help give him money in order to save the bank, which then leads to two of the greatest Christmas quotes of all time. And while everyone's having a party at his house, his little brother comes over to where he gives a toast to his big brother and declares him the richest man in town. When you think about it, he really is the richest man alive because he has his life back, a life that changed the lives of so many of his friends and family and the entire town. At this point, I'm already bawling my eyes out, and the movie still has one more chance to make me cry even more. And that's when we see a little note from Clarence that he wrote to George Bailey that gets me every time. And just as the movie's about to end, George finds a little note from his guardian angel that tells him that no man is a failure who has friends. Oh my god, this movie is so beautifully well made, and I love the overall message at the end of it. We take some things in life for granted, and when they're gone, we suddenly feel empty inside. This is one of those movies that I think that everyone should watch, especially during a time like this. With a lot of plans being canceled and things being put on hold because of COVID, we can relate a lot to George Bailey. When you look at the movie, you see how George had a lot of plans for life, but things changed, and he didn't realize what was most important to him until it was gone. That's pretty much what happened for most of 2020. We had plans, but when the pandemic hit, things changed, and so now I think now more than ever, this is the perfect time for us to reflect on our lives and realize that even though things didn't go our way, we still have each other. So overall, I really love this movie, and honestly, this is one of 2 Christmas films that I can relate to a lot based on my life, and I really tear up in this movie because whenever I watch George Bailey reflect on his life, I see a lot of myself in that character. So if you get a chance to watch It's a Wonderful Life, I highly suggest you pack some tissues because you will tear up a bit at the end of the movie, but I gotta tell you, when you're finished watching the movie, you're gonna feel really good. And honestly, this is the perfect film to open up December. So that's gonna do it for this video, guys. That was my overall review for It's a Wonderful Life. If you like what you saw, click the subscribe button so you can get the latest updates from this channel. I'll see you next time with a brand new video. Bye bye.